Hello everyone, welcome to NS Arms. I'm Nathani, and today I have a project that has been in the works for over a year and a half and is the culmination of months of design work, months of testing, and countless game hours. I'm very proud of the final product that I have here, if I may say so myself. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over what this ecosystem is, what it does differently than other mag holders out there, and kind of what the future of the system is. So to start, let's go over what the basic ecosystem is. So the Spindle ecosystem started off with my desire to have an easy to attach, very quick to mount, unmount mag holder that can also be pivoted to whichever angle you might like. This is because the existing mag holders in the Nerf community kind of really weren't doing that. You either had just direct Molle mount with like those little tabs that were such a pain to mount, and that was the main impetus for even coming up with this system. But then also you maybe have either one or two options for how to mount it. You can either mount it top side up, top side bottom, or maybe if you add on an additional part, left or right. So that's kind of what I wanted to address with this ecosystem. So the original design started with this single mag holder over here. You'll notice the massive flare of the holder. That makes re-indexing super easy. It is compatible with both Codas as well as Talon magazines. And the retention is really strong, which was another design requirement because of my playstyle. The holder is ambidextrous, so you can insert the magazine either way. There are catches on both sides. And then there is also a double stack version over here. There are more versions planned. I'm not sure when I'll be able to get around to them, but they are in the works. In addition, I do have a holder. This is hot off the press for mega mags, or half mega, I should say. This is still being tested and probably won't be released alongside the main line, but it is planned for that to be released. Now onto the hub mounts, which is what I like to call these parts. You have two different options. The shorter one is typically for belt laser cut Molle, so that would be Molle in this style where there isn't really a gap between the different slots, so you can just take this over here, slot it in. Kind of hard to do this with one hand. Slide it in all the way, and then you just take these two tabs, lock them in, and it's secured on your belt. Super quick. And then to unmount, you just click these two tabs in, pivot the holder up, and slide it out. That's it. That's the entire mounting process. The other option is the long hub, which is primarily designed for scared style Molle, which has the gap in the middle. So mounting process is exactly the same. You just pop it through the two holes, slots, I guess, and then lock in the tabs, and there you go. So mounting the holders to the Molle hub is a extremely simple process. All it takes is one M4 by 10 screw, and you just drop that into this hole over here, and then you just put these two halves together, and you could pivot this to whatever you want. There's about 16 different positions, so you'll definitely find something you like. And then you simply take a hex screwdriver, and then I need that going that way, and then you just lock it down, and there you go. That's nice and rigid. If you want to change up the angle mid-event, you can just loosen that screw and pivot the mag holder to whatever direction you might like. Also, there are lefty and righty versions of this, so if you want the low side to face back when it's on your right, or if it's on your left, you have options. That was a big thing for designing this, was to give people options. To add on to that, the hub mount geometry will be made public, so others can design their own attachments if they'd like. So if you want some sort of holster, You could do that or whatever you might like. Now on to the assembly of the system. The parts you'll need are your hub mount of choice, either the long or the short, and the, I guess, attachment of your choice. All parts are pre-oriented for printing and do not require support material, although you may need a brim for the catches because the footprint is very small. Depending on which mag holder you choose, you will need a different number of catches. The base single holder uses 2, 1 on each side, while the double stack uses 4. Let's go over the hardware requirements. Every hub will need one M4 heatset insert. I will list the exact version in the page. You can install that either direction, front or back. I find that installing it through the front leaves a little bit less of, ooze from when you install it. It just makes not having to trim it a little bit better. You'll need one M3 by 40 screw, head of your choice, one M3 hex lock nut, one M4 by 10 panhead screw. This is important for it to be a panhead because otherwise you might have it stick out into the mag holder and then scrape up your mags if they even fit. So just be aware of that. To start, we'll assemble the Molle hub. I'm going to go with the long version because it's a bit easier to see on camera. After installing your heat set, you're going to take your Molle tab, kind of line it up with the holes in the hub. And you don't have to necessarily fold it in yet. You can just leave it as is. I like to put the hex nut already in there, just so we can, interface with it with the screw. It's a bit easier. Then you're going to take your M3 screw, push it all the way through. You might have to jiggle the tab around to get it to line up properly. And then once that pushes through the other side, you just want to take your screwdriver and then tighten that down. Which takes a bit because the screw is overly long for what I use it for, but better longer than shorter. You can probably get away with an M3 by 35, but I wouldn't recommend it. You do want the screw to have a bit of looseness to it so the tab can actually move, but when it's on your gear you can actually tighten it down all the way to prevent the hub from coming out, which I do find helpful. So, like, for example, like that's not really moving. We're going to set this to the side for now. Now we're going to move on to the actual mag holder. You're going to need, depending on your model, a different number of catches. I'm going to start with the base spindle, so we're just going to need 2 catches. The catch is installed with the V's matching up. So this little arrow over here matches this little arrow over here. You could theoretically just slip it in from the outside, but I find that's a bit difficult to do. So what I like to do generally is slip it in from inside and just kind of tilt it in so that the tongue gets over there, and just use my other hand to make sure that it gets into the groove. And it might be difficult to push it in, but it's not going to break. And once you hear the click, you know it's in. Just test that for test that to make sure that it's actuating freely. If it's not, you probably don't have it installed deep enough. On the other side, it's much easier because there's only this little notch over here. It's actually easier to do this one from the outside. Just bend that into place, and there we go. Actuate it. Feel free to take a magazine and test the retention. If it's a bit too tight, you may want to sand down or grab an X-Acto and then just trim off a bit of the edge of the mag holder. And we're just going to set this to the side for now. For the Mega Mag version, I'm just going to, put this up even though it's probably not released yet. That is actually easier to go from the inside. It slips in, and over here it's actually opposite to the V. You'll know which way the catch goes in generally, just because there's only one way for it to fit. Oh boy, dropped it. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that there. You get the point. Now to attach our mag holder to the hub, we're simply gonna line up the coupler, drop our screw through, and then start tightening it down. Now if you want to adjust which angle this is, you do want to leave a bit of room to make sure that it can actually line up. So let's say we want to go with a 90 degree for whatever reason. Just lock that down, and then there we go. Now to mount it to your gear, you're just gonna open up the tabs a bit, just so you can get the belt in, and then we're gonna just slot it through both loops, and then I like to push this little arm inside so it clicks in instead of just trying to squeeze it. And there we go. One spindle mounted on your gear. To uninstall, I generally prefer to only actuate one catch at a time, just because it's a little bit less stress on the part. So you go 1, 2, open it up a bit, and then it just slides out. And that's assembly done. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the Spindle ecosystem as much as I've enjoyed designing it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me on Discord at Nathani, Instagram at ns_arms, or on printables at notnathani.